Hi, this is Dr. Georgia. I hope you find today's message a blessing in your life. We want to make sure that we continue to provide these video messages for you when you can't come to church, or for those of you who live in a different state, or we noticed recently we have a lot of people in even different countries who are tuning in. So if that is you and you can donate to us, we invite you to hit that donate button just below the message here. So thanks so much.
As we prepare ourselves to receive this morning, follow me, take your hand, put it on your head, open my mind to receive the spiritual truth today. And on your ear, I open my ear to hear the spiritual truth today. And across your heart, release, and I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth today that I am dealing with is that it is working together for good. God will work it together for good. Now, as a practitioner and as a minister, I should be pious enough to say it's all good, right? But I have experienced a number of things in life I didn't think were that good. But it works together for good. See, life is a lot like a chocolate cake. You take raw eggs and sugar and flour and flavor and chocolate, and you put it all together and you work it together into a batter. If you were to taste any single ingredient, it does not taste like chocolate cake. But when you put it all together, it works together to be chocolate cake. See, many things in our life, I call they're just comma experiences. You know, something happens and it's followed by a comma. I can change my mind, I can change the situation, I can use the law. But then there are experiences in life that are principle. And when it's principle is followed by a period. My commas are not your commas, and your commas are not my commas. But each one of us, the truth is the same for all of us. Now, the line here that titles this talk is, how's that working for you? And all of us have heard Dr. Phil with that line, right? And it's pretty much a pretty catty line, It's kind to elicit for you to self-reflect and say, well, no, it really ain't working for me. But I'm here to tell you, yes, it is. You get to choose. Because, see, everything can work together for good. I'll give you a story. True story. Christina was 10 years old when her mother died. She was born in Ireland. She had 3 siblings. Her father was abusive and an alcoholic. Her mother dies. Father decides that he really can't take care of this young child, a young child who looked for every opportunity to entertain. If there were 2 or 3 people around, she would start singing and dancing. But he did not feel he could take care of her, so he makes the decision to put her in an orphanage and tell her that her 3 siblings have also died with her mother. Now, I can't figure out for the life of me why he would think to do that, but this was her experience. Christina did not like that decision. She is in England, she is from Ireland, and she escapes or runs away from the orphanage. She's assaulted, she becomes pregnant. After that, of course, the social service system took her child away from her and left her on the street, homeless, in London, in the wintertime, sleeping in a red phone box. True story. At one point in time, she was visiting a church and she was eating the wax as it melted from the candles because she was hungry. And the priest did not feed her. he actually judged her and ran her away. See, sometimes even the people who say they are there for us don't necessarily help us in certain situations. So like many people do, she decides to get married, and what does she do? She married an abusive man. Christina, is your life working for you? But Christina had a dream. And dreams are amazing things, because sometimes you have a dream, whether conscious or not, and you know that you know that you know that it's true. She had a dream. Whenever I talk about dreams, I always go to the story of Joseph in the Bible. Why? Because I like biblical stories. And in this particular story, you know, Joseph has a dream. His brothers become jealous of him. His brothers decide to kill him by putting him in a hole, and hopefully that an animal would come and eat him. They get guilty, not to repent. They dig him out of the hole and they sell him into slavery. He is purchased. He becomes a slave in a home. The wife tries to seduce him. He ends up in jail. While he is in jail, he interprets dreams. His gift slowly makes room for him. Eventually, the Pharaoh hears about him, and he becomes governor of the state. He becomes governor of the state, and he's able to feed his family, which was the dream he had that his brothers resented. Now, I am sure that if you had asked Joseph at any particular point, how's this working for you? He's in a hole. His brothers have plotted to kill him. By the way, every family in the Bible is dysfunctional. They really are. I know people won't tell you that, but they really are. They really are real people. They're just dysfunctional. But somehow or another, we love our dysfunctional families, and he really wanted to save this family, and he actually feeds them. But each one of those situations, no one would believe his life was working for him. But somehow, God works it together for good. Okay? Personal story. When I was younger, I was very, very aggressive about my career. I was extremely ambitious. Extremely ambitious. Pretty uptight, all those kinds of things. So at 25 years of age, I applied for a job that's 2,000 miles away from my home. I have never lived more than 15 minutes away from my family, but I decide I am gonna move 2,000 miles away where I don't know anyone, and I'm gonna take on this job. They called me and they said, we have 72 applicants, we're gonna interview 12. You have to be here in 2 days for the interview. And being as arrogant as I was in those days, I said, well, I'm not available in the next 2 days, so you may hire the second best person for this job. That is the truth. That's what I said. Now, I said that because I had a job, right? But the thing is they called me back in a month, and they said, when can you interview? And I said, of course, I'll be there over the weekend. And I went there, and I left Michigan. I grew up in Detroit, and I left 10 inches of snow and ice. I landed in Tampa, Florida at 9 o'clock at night, and it was 72 degrees. I called my parents, and I said, oh, they can get me cheap. But I'm not going to tell them. So I take this job. I move there, and 2 years, it's great. Everything I did works. They love me a lot. Life is great. I'm having the best time of my life. I'm meeting people. I'm enjoying myself. And year 3 comes, and looks like the bottom just fell out of everything. Not only was it a terrible year, they eliminated my job. Now I don't have a job. Now, I wish I could tell you at this point in time in my life that my worry was that I didn't have a job, but I was very superficial in those days, and I was just worried because it looked bad. I looked like I was a failure as far as I was concerned, and that's what really got to me, is that I looked bad. But the interesting thing in life, you'd say, well, and I remember one of my friends said, Rick, how's this working for you? And I'm like, well, what can I do? But I went and got another job, part-time job, and it wasn't very much to the job, but, it was a good, decent living. And interesting thing is, what I learned during that 1 year following losing my job has maintained my career for 30 years. Not only what I learned spiritually, but what I learned in healthcare. I learned in a year, it has maintained my career for 30 years. I have worked in Florida, Lexington, Kentucky, Denver, Colorado, Eugene, Oregon, and now Northern California. I have never moved myself. I have never packed a box. I don't even know how to pack. Okay? But my point is, that situation, as bad as it looked, and as embarrassed as I was, actually worked for me to my good for my entire career, the last 30 years of my life. So what about Christina? So Christina, she's growing up the time of the Vietnam War. And many of you should remember there was a picture of a young Vietnamese girl when they bombed Vietnam with napalm. She was running down the street like this, and if this picture wasn't so disturbing, I would show it. She doesn't remember when she saw that picture, but she dreamed about that little girl. And in her dream, the little girl said, "Come help." So Christina, she now has a family. She has an abusive husband. But she decides to follow her dream. She goes to Vietnam. She gets to Vietnam and she tells people, "I am here to open a school and a clinic." So let's look at her situation. She is an Irish woman in Vietnam asking men in Vietnam who own businesses to provide resources to her to care for their children who have suffered in war. And she got it. Okay? She opened the Christina Noble Foundation, and she has cared for more than 1 million children in her lifetime. She's now in her 70s. The thing is that she has a book, it's a movie, it's called Noble, and she has a book that's Bridge Across My Sorrows. And she talks about all of this unpleasantness in her life, but how her end was so good. Now, that doesn't justify the experience that she had in every situation, and it doesn't say that the situations were good, which is why it's hard for me to say it's all good. But it works together for good. And to me, that is the proof of God, that you can have your will and your will and your will and your will and my will, and our wills work together for good. We couldn't orchestrate that on our own. We never could. Interestingly enough, the little girl, Kim, who was on the page of the New York Times, I actually was in a conference where she spoke last year. She basically said the same thing. That here she was in the hospital for 18 months after they were bombed. The people who bombed her had actually come to her to ask for forgiveness. The photographer who took the picture actually is the individual who took her to the hospital. She eventually left, went to medical school in Cuba. She now lives in Canada with her husband, and she opened a foundation, the Kim Foundation, to care for children who are victims of war. See, you can't do that on your own. It's only because God works it together for good. So I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know what happened yesterday. I don't know what's good and what's bad. But if there is an experience that you are having today, yesterday, or the day before, or at some particular point in your life, God can work it together for good.
Amen.
If you have a dream, the dream that won't let you go, who's to say that dream can't come true? Only you can say it can't come true. Yes, it can come true. Because we talk about the use, you change your thinking, change your life. When we use that line, and it actually is powerful, but it's phrased in the context of something else that Ernest Holmes actually wrote, which I don't think we really get. Ernest wrote, there is a power for good in the universe, greater than you are, and you can use it. See, that power is for the good. Now, if you want your life to take off, make sure that what you do, what you think, what you buy, and how you encounter everyone is all about the good. Because just like giving, you receive, as you care for others, you will be cared for. Yes, it may have tragedy in the story, but God works it together for good. And so it is. Let's take this word into prayer, knowing only one power, knowing only one presence, knowing there's only one life. For this we are ever so thankful. We are thankful that although we may leave this place, we never leave the presence. For this we are ever so thankful. We bless this offering, that it will be used and beneficial in this community, and we bless the hands of all that give. Yes, we